So I realize now, upon the completion and publishing of my video, there are some details that I could have explained better, or some details that I just left out in general. One of them, I believe I didn't really expand upon, was the fact that this is all based upon a supposedly true story. It's based upon the life of Tetsuya Agata, and that is based upon some books written by a man called Tetsuya Agata, and he wrote a novel called The Mahjong Wanderers, which was turned into a film that was called, I think, Dosa Ken Hikiri Hell. It's a very famous Mahjong film. Anyone interested in Mahjong probably knows a lot more about it than I do. I know it's out there, and I know it's really based upon this post-war period Japan and these Mahjong Wanderers, or as the show calls them, Bainin, which it really just means professional gambler or professional Mahjong player. So that covers the fact that, yes, this show is actually based upon a true story. And it's an interesting true story, no doubt, but I have no idea of the authenticity. I know that the original author, Tetsuya Asada or Takeshi Asada or Tetsuya Agata, there's really a billion names for this guy. He used a lot of pseudonyms and nom de guerre. That's French for like war name. Essentially, the name you get is the name you earn rather than the name you're given. So I imagine he earned his name as a professional gambler. So now if we look into Mahjong itself, I realised that some of my references to Akagi may have been a bit too eclectic, and I severely misjudged how popular Akagi actually is. Well, Mahjong it's a gambling game. It's based around having decks that you build over the course of the game, and your deck, of course, can actually... so everyone has a deck, and you take them from the interior walls, and you build those walls yourself at the start of the game. That's Axis shuffling. And the main form of Mahjong played in Japan and in these anime and manga series is Riichi Mahjong, which is a specialized Japanese type of Mahjong, where you score like Riichi points. There are obviously much better videos explaining Mahjong out there, and I honestly do not have a brilliant understanding. I know it works a lot like Japanese poker, but instead of waiting for the dealer, every person is the dealer, so you use another person's discard. So what they take from their hand that they don't like and they discard it, you can use that to build your hand, and there are all sorts of little points and little combinations, but it's all about building the hand worth the most points, or the hand that trumps the other hands. And I think it's also about speed. It's not like one of those turn-based games. I think it goes turn by turn by turn, but if your opponent discards something, you can just shout like pawn or Riichi or whatever and take their discard. It is also it's really based around waiting for the right discard. Akagi is very good, by the way. It's a similar premise. But it's about a genuine Mahjong genius. He also it's entirely based after the war. There's no post-war scenes. There's a lot more Yakuza involvement. There's one thing Tetsuya as a series doesn't actually include. There's a scene in the manga where he has to deal with some American servicemen who point a gun at his head and they demand he gamble for his life. But Akagi features a lot more actual Yakuza, and in some ways, more danger. I mean, there is some danger in Tetsuya Asada, but in Legendary Gambler Tetsuya, but the most danger is sort of not eating that day, whereas the danger in Akagi is getting your fingers chopped off, or losing all your blood, or falling off a cliff. There's a lot of gimmicks, but that's standard for FKMT. If you haven't watched any FKMT or read any FKMT, I highly recommend doing so. There's a whole bunch of series that he's written, and a lot of them are ongoing. He's somehow managed to write Akagi for almost like 30 years, I think, and the anime barely covers the actual manga. It's actually quite incredible how much material there is in Akagi that isn't animated. Yeah, so they're very good, really worth reading. Honestly, I would say that Akagi is probably the better of the two in terms of general direction, but I find that the gritty post-war atmosphere of Tetsuya is a lot better utilized. For example, in Akagi, you've no real idea they're poor. It's just kind of, it's the 70s or the 60s, and I'm slightly impoverished. I have to work all day in the factory, so I'm just going to make some extra cash gambling with my salary. With the other factory workers, after your shift's over, whereas in Legendary Gambler Tetsuya, the general attitude is a lot more destitute, and it's, oh, if I don't play well at Mahjong, I can't eat. And there's people begging, there's people who've given their houses up, there's people that are sort of implied want sexual favors in exchange for, instead of money when they beat you at Mahjong. There's some, it's a lot more destitute. There are people who really genuinely have everything on the line, whereas Akagi feels like, well, I mean, that's kind of the point, is that Akagi is a genius who's bored and he wants to really test his own capabilities and skills by messing around with the Yakuza. There's no real pressing desire or motivation for Akagi to almost get himself killed, except he wants to try it out. So yeah, I think that covers enough information for this supplementary video. I just made this quickly after reviewing my work and listening to some feedback. I'd like to thank everyone who has given me feedback. Obviously, there isn't much in the comments, but many people privately messaged me about what I did well and what I could improve on, and I'll take all your comments to heart, and I hope to see you all next episode.